Hey, everybody, it's time for this week's Mortgage Minute with Tatiana Ivleva-Lopez from Prosperity Home Mortgage. Hello, you naughty little girl.
Hello. It's not my fault, I promise.
All right, just lay it on us.
All
Tell
right.
us about the
Yeah,
rates.
what's going on?
Let me tell you.
Yep.
All right. So the rates went up from the last week. You can see they increased to 6.65 on conforming, on conventional, and FHA it's 6.33. Jumbo is just slightly better at 6.61, slightly better than conventional conforming. So, you might expect that rates would fall right now after the Federal Reserve cut the rates a half a point last month. But, here's the thing. The Fed can influence mortgage rates,
Here's the
but it does not set them. Instead, mortgage rates mainly follow a different number, the yield on a 10-year Treasury bond. And that yield has gone up recently for a number of reasons, including, based on investors are expecting the Fed to be a little more cautious in cutting rates after the jumbo size cut last month. That said, despite the recent uptick, mortgage rates are still more than a full point lower than they were last year. So, and I think some people are waiting on, what's going to happen with the election, and they're maybe hoping that rates are going to go down because of that. There's really no way to tell. And as I like to say, the better is enemy of good. And if someone needs to lock the rate now because they're settling soon, I wouldn't wait for that.
That's a good point. You keep out because you missed it.
Yeah. The first time I heard that is when I decided to marry you. Just kidding.
That's when you heeded the advice finally. You were looking out for me. That's the one situation that the better was the friend of good.
That's true.
And we've actually had a lot of conversations with buyers in the last 2 weeks with regards to why are the rates going up? I don't understand. So I'm so glad we did that video because I could just kind of send it to them.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to go back, about 2 weeks ago, we did a Mortgage Minute subject talking about why the rates did not come down after the rate cut from the Feds.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think too it was all that hype that everybody had starting the end of last year. It's like, oh, in 2024, the Feds are going to cut the rates. They're going to cut the rates, and then they kept
kicking it down.
Yeah. And I think kind of waiting for people to almost get weary, get kind of worn out and tired from the wait. And I feel like finally maybe people are starting to realize that
this is the new reality.
You know what? We're not going to go back. It's taken so long for people to stop hoping that it's going to go back to 3%,
And I don't know why they're hoping for that, because if it does, then they're going to pay way more for the property.
I don't think they are anymore. What do you think, Tatiana? Do you still have anybody asking about the rates in the 3s and 4s?
Well, yeah, people still, hoping that that's where it's gonna go down to, but I don't think it's gonna happen in our lifetime. But
barring some tragedy.
Yeah. Well, the problem is that the media is the problem, honestly. And I'm calling the media because, they were screaming rates went down, but now rates are going up and they're silent. They're not talking about that. If rates is going to go down a little bit now, and right now it's trending up, but let's say it will improve slightly, they're going to be all over news again, and people will completely miss that part where the rates actually went up almost the whole percentage point, and now it improved just a little bit. So it's, to me, they just going after flashy news, but
Yeah.
they don't. It actually doesn't help clients at all.
Yeah.
But
They're chasing eyeballs versus actually giving the whole picture. They're just chasing eyeballs, searching for clicks and all that.
exactly.
Chasing eyeballs. That's right. They want eyeballs on them running down the street.
That's terrible. It's good for Halloween now.
All right. Okay. Anything else on the interest rates? Any other bad news? Spooky stories for Halloween.
Just, the good news is you can lock the interest rate now and then refinance later. That's a good news.
Yeah.
That is the good news. That's always the good news.
That's right. That's right. And it's a good market for buyers right now, and sellers as well. But it's a little more favorable to the buyers with the rates doing this and it being in the fall. So yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Right. So earlier this week we did a home buyer Q&A seminar, and one of the questions that we got in that seminar was, what are the options for first-time home buyers? What special programs are there? And we get these questions all the time from people. So let's get this on video. Let's get your answer on video, so I don't have to keep sending people to you to make you repeat yourself. What are the options for the general DMV area for Northern Virginia, Maryland? I don't know if we have DC on here, but what are the options for first-time home buyers?
Yeah. Well, so first of all, typically first-time buyers, they do get better interest rate than those that are not first-time home buyers. There is Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. They have adjusters to the interest rate when a person is a first-time home buyer. And so even if they put in money down and not taking advantage of first-time home buyer programs that help with down payment and closing costs, they still have benefit by getting a reduced interest rate. It does have some income limits. If income exceeds certain percentage of median income, then that adjuster goes away. But if you are within that limit, and I'm not going to say what it is because it depends on the county, right? So those median limits vary. So, but that's one benefit for first-time home buyers. But in general, if you're talking about, programs that help buyers with down payment assistance or grants, in Virginia, every state has their own programs. In Virginia, we have VH, previously known as VHDA. Maryland is MMP, and there's some other local grants that, different depending on the county. So let's just quick overview. I don't want to overwhelm people, but so let's talk about Virginia housing. They can visit to vhda.com, and the way the program works, they help with down payment. So typically you put 3% down. Let's say if it's conventional loan, you put 3% down. If FHA puts 3.5% down. So they would get 97% loan, and then they get additional second loan for 3% down payment. And if they have a good credit score above 680, they can get a 4.5% loan that would cover the 3% down payment and 1.5% closing costs. So half of the closing costs will be covered by that. So that's one option that VH has. Actually, they made a change to their policy, and the buyers that are not first-time home buyers also can get this loan as well. They have, they have, some a little bit higher interest rate than if you are a first-time home buyer, but this is a pretty good option for them as well. This program has income limits, and again, it depends on number of members in the household and the county. It varies, but they're actually pretty reasonable limits. It's not something very small. Even 200 over 200,000 in some areas and some options. So this is something that people can look up at vhda.com. Another option, so in VHDA or VH has is a grant. And grant is not a loan like on the first option, right? That was a loan, you have a mortgage payment on it, interest rate. Here it's a pure grant, it's free money that they would receive, and depending on the program, if they do in conventional or FHA, they would get either 2 or 2.5% grant. Again,
Mhm.
it's not a lien against the house, it's not a mortgage, it's free money. They're basically getting uh, this grant, so they would have to put only 1% down essentially and pay the closing
That's
costs.
great.
So it's a
Okay.
pretty good option
Yeah.
for them. Maryland also has their own program, MMP, so they can visit mmp.maryland.gov website, and they have different options here. They have down payment assistance loan, 5,000 or 3% down payment loan, or 4% 5. So, which with each option there's going to be rate difference, there's going to be um, income limit difference, so they just need to see which one works the
Mhm.
best for this clients. So
Okay.
I don't have slide for DC, but DC also has one that's called Open Doors, so you can check Open Door DC program. You can just Google it and get information on that. But besides this, main programs, each county has their own grants typically, or maybe it's a loan, but it could be forgiven loan in 5 years, or it could be in deferment for the duration of the loan. So there's so many different programs. I can't, of course, go over all of them, but you just,
Right.
wherever you're looking at, you need to check maybe local county grants and see if their criteria meets
Yeah.
you meet their criteria, your
Gotcha.
profile. One I want to show is a really good grant I really like. It's called Birdseed. It This grant, going back to VH grant, that grant stays throughout the year. With all other grants, they typically tends to run out of money at some point, and then you need to wait until they
Yeah.
open up again. So the
Okay.
same with this Birdseed grant. They can give up to $15,000, and they're very easy to get because typically grants, they have their own little guidelines. They might say that your debt to income ratio cannot exceed this, or you have to work in this county for X amount of years to get this loan, or you have to have certain credit score. So these
Mhm.
guys, they just saying, you can do conventional FHA and you just follow their guidelines. We're not gonna tell you what to do with how to qualify people. The only thing that they need to qualify on is, they need to be first time home buyers. Everybody has to be a first time home buyer. And
Okay.
they have certain ethnicities that they would give the grants to. Right here, you can see American Indians, Indigenous, Native Alaskans, Asians, Pacific Islanders, Black, African American, Hispanics, and Latins. I'm not sure.
Do both borrowers have to be one of those, or can it is it only one?
I'm not 100% sure, honestly. That's something that what happens is when the borrower contacts them, and those guys are actually very responsive
Yeah.
and easy to work with from lender standpoint, and I know that they interview them, so they go to interview. I guess they need to see a person,
Yeah.
and the you can see the grant amount is from 5 to 15,000, so they have their own criteria. They probably look at income in a way, right?
Yeah.
But that's something that they would advise the client on. And the property where they buy needs to be located in DC, Montgomery, or PG County, that's in Maryland, or Arlington, Fairfax County, and City of Alexandria and Falls Church. So it's a
Okay.
pretty good circle where clients
Yeah.
will buy and qualify for this one. So
Yeah.
I wanted to just mention this one. And again, the Google is is a king. Just check what they have in there, and if if it's something that it's um, interesting for you, and
Yeah.
check which lenders work with those programs, because not all lenders would support special grants or programs.
That's a
Okay.
good point. That's a
Yeah.
good point. And are they fairly easy to apply to? Do you know?
Well, I think it depends on, like, the birdseed one. It's pretty easy. Some, especially when it's affordable dwelling units, and you have to get in line, and you have to
Okay.
go through interview and a process. So it all depends on the grant, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Well, I think this is really good that it follows a market report that we just did was 5 reasons to buy versus rent.
Yeah. That's good.
And I think
Yeah.
this is really good to follow that. And one of the things I think is important to mention, because first time home buyers, especially if they're coming from renting to buying, it's kind of like, oh wait, what you're talking about grants that can not only make up for grants and loans, right? That can not only make up for their down payment, but also some closing costs. And then can you also mention the time frame from when they close to when their first payment is due? Because that's very, very important for first time home buyers coming from renting to buying.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically it's always the same. You're gonna skip 1 month of payment. If you buy in November, your payment is gonna be due in January. So in a way, it depends on when you settle in November. It could seem like it's 2 months, right? Because
Yeah.
if you settle in the very beginning of November, you're gonna wait until January 1st to make payment. Sort of 2 months, but it's one, because you
Yeah.
skip in December.
And that can be a really big deal, because I mean, if your rent's $1,500 a month and
Saves
you
you
close at the
1,500.
beginning of 1 month, like November 2nd, say, and then your first payment isn't due until January, it's like, ooh, okay, that's good for moving, rental trucks
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
That's
Would be a very
really good.
good break for them. Mhm.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So on all these grants and all these loans and everything, is a first-time home buyer defined the same way? So somebody who's never owned a home, or is it somebody who hasn't owned a home for a certain period of time? Because I know that there's some variance in that in some programs.
Yeah, it's a very good point. So every program has their own definition of first-time home buyer. For
Okay.
example, Virginia Housing, their definition of a first-time home buyer is someone who hasn't owned a home, a primary residence, for the past 3 years. So the caveat is primary residence. So someone who owns investment property, but currently, renting something, or living, with relatives or something, they're first-time home buyers
Yeah.
to qualify for VH program. Maryland program is, you didn't own anything for 3 years. Some programs, they say you might never own the home, like Birdseed is saying, you have never owned the home. So
Like your true first-time home
it's
buyer.
gonna vary depending on
Yep.
the
Okay.
grant or program. But
Okay.
typically, in general, even like to qualify for conventional, if they do a regular loan, remember I mentioned that they get discounted interest rate even if they put money down. The definition is you have not owned the property in the past 3 years.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
That's good.
Very good.
This is really great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to send this to the person that asked that question at the workshop.
Oh yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah. All right. And you know who you are when you receive it. Where am I supposed to be looking? All right. Okay. Anything else?
No, how did they get in touch with you?
They can call me at 571-245-3000.
All right.
That's
All right.
right.
We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.